Hey guys, Buffing Game Bat today, bringing out a video, and today we're covering the map Caldera and why I think it is not really a good map at all. Now, I wanted to be really harsh and make this into kind of like a rant video, to be honest, but I luckily played some Rebirth, got a couple wins, and cooled down a little bit. But the map itself, Caldera, we're going to kind of compare that to Verdansk. There was a really interesting post I saw on Twitter the other day that I will put the link for that down below. I originally saw it posted by Call of Duty Warzone News. I have no idea if that's who originally brought this post up or if they took it off Reddit or something, but that's where I originally saw it, Call of Duty Warzone News. I will put that link on Twitter. You guys can see the photo here, and really what it is comparing. We know that the map sizes are basically the same, but it's comparing the open space on each map. And when we look at Verdansk compared to Caldera, you can see obviously Verdansk had its open space for sure, and I would argue on Verdansk that was the most unenjoyable parts of that map, whereas the open space up on those hills, whereas just trees, a little bit of bushes and rocks, that was like probably the worst spot you wanted a circle to end typically, because again, it's just all a cluster. It's very hard to see people, and the engagements, there's no cover. And unfortunately now we look at compared to Caldera, you see the red lines there is indicating empty space or useless space there as well. And that's basically the same space that we see on Verdansk that nobody enjoyed playing on, really. Throughout the whole map, there's a lot of open space on Caldera, which makes it extremely easy to get picked off. And now, when we're talking about weapon meta right now, a lot of the folks are obviously using the Vanguard weapons. We have things like the STG-44 and the Bren I see with a lot of different ammo conversions with the fire ammo, the incendiary rounds, and something like 6.8 or 6.5 millimeter rounds on the weapons with the suppressors. The weapons themselves, they sound like they're Nerf guns when they're firing. They're very weird sounding. They don't sound like they have any impact like the Modern Warfare or even the Cold War weapons for that matter. But the recoil, again, always an issue with these newer titles. Seems like they don't adjust the recoil for Warzone. And the bullet velocity, the fire rounds on the Bren, is just a big problem. So when you get caught in the open like this, you're just dead. There's a lot of instances here where I've been running around and I saw a sniper glint and I'm in the open. And I know I can't challenge that sniper glint. And again, here on PS5, I don't have an FOV slider, so I'm stuck on the 80 FOV. So I can't see, really what's going on around me, his other teammates that are also looking at me. So I'm trying to get away, and it's just useless. And when you look at the kill cams, you just see these STGs or these Brens that are fully maxed up just destroying you. And they, like I said, they fire like Nerf guns, very low recoil, and they just don't have, they have no recoil, and they're just destroying you. And the incendiary rounds are a pain. Even after you're behind cover, they're going to continue to do damage to you, which I've killed a person and gotten hit with their incendiary rounds, and after they're dead, I've gone down, which is really, really frustrating. After you win a firefight against that, you have to deal with that visual obstruction of the fire rounds for the incendiary is just a pain. But looking at the gameplay compared to Caldera and Caldera compared to Verdansk, one big issue is the loadout issue. I've been playing probably more consistently now for the past week and a half, 2 weeks, and I've gotten a loadout maybe I would say 20% of my games. And for the games that I do get my loadout, majority of the time, I would say about 85%, and that's being generous. I die the second I pick up my loadout. I get killed because people are going to camp the loadout, and you just have a lot of people rolling up on you. It's very difficult to see on Caldera because of this open space. There's no cover, and a lot of the Vanguard operators are very difficult to see on this map compared to like the Modern Warfare operators or even the Cold War operators. It's definitely an issue, so I really can't. I want to say I hate the map, but it's hard to really say because I haven't really been able to play the map the way I want to, because you're stuck with these Vanguard weapons off the bat. And you can see the gameplay in the background. It's just some clips taken from some recent gameplay where it was very frustrating, where we dropped in trying to get our loot, and we need to wait, 5-6 minutes until we get a free loadout drop or we're able to buy our loadout. And we get rolled up on by multiple teams. We got pinned in these buildings, and at that point, we can't do anything because we have multiple teams that are there, and they're not even fighting each other. So we're just stuck in this building. The loadout comes, we can't get to it, and we all end up dying. But that's just one of many examples that just shows how much I've been struggling to even get my loadout on Caldera, because you just can't buy it. You have to wait, and you have to deal with these horrible Vanguard weapons, which, yes, if you have them fully, they're probably really, really good, as everyone, I'm sure, can see with a lot of the kill cams that they get killed by, but these ground loot weapons are really, really not fun to use, and just, I honestly hate it. I'm really, really bad with them. And I really just like my Modern Warfare gear and playing around with the Modern Warfare weapons. I've been having a lot of fun with the Fin LMG and trying to do a lot of these Warzone videos. You know, I really want to do some really good Warzone videos here with some of these nice off-meta builds like I love to do here on this channel. And it is definitely frustrating when you cannot get your loadout. Just so many games back-to-back of almost getting your loadout, or you get your loadout and you die. There was one occasion we got our loadout finally after doing 2 kings to get everyone back. Our free loadout drop was getting camped, so we couldn't go there, and that's another problem with the loadout issue, is that free loadout. I mean, if you are having issues and you have to get to that free loadout, you might as well forget that, because if it's not alone, you're going to get camped, and if it is alone, there's going to be another team nearby that most likely is going to roll up on you, and that seems to be the case. Typically, teams will roll up before we even get to our free drop, so very, very difficult. I'm not sure if it's the lobbies I'm in or what, but I am not, my KD is not anything to write home about. Neither are the folks I play with. You know, we're just trying to have fun and just getting utterly destroyed to the point where we can't even get our loadouts, and like I said, when we do, we die. But the open space, again, if I could get my loadout, maybe it would be a little bit better or easier to do these engagements in this open space, but because I'm stuck with these World War II weapons the majority of the time, it's definitely an issue. But when I do have my loadout, I feel like I can play very well. However, the open space is still just a problem. There's really no cover. If you look at the gameplay on Verdansk, there was huge amounts of POIs. We had things like Downtown, Port, Gulag, Hills, Promenade, Boneyard, Airport, Summit, Military Base. So many different POIs with a lot of different buildings and structures in between them. So even in that empty space between the major POIs, you had a lot of different buildings in suburban areas to travel and cover to cover and things like that. So yes, Vanguard was, or excuse me, Verdansk was an annoying map in some areas because you had the high rise, that vertical gameplay. However, in my personal opinion, compared to Caldera, it was much more enjoyable. It allowed for much more tactical gameplay. Yes, you could get to a spot and you could patrol a roof and camp it out and things like that. But at the end of the day, based on that circle shift, you had to really coordinate with your team and allowed for more tactical gameplay to shift cover to cover, building a building, how you're going to flank your enemies. Here on Caldera, it's really just an open space all the time. And when you're trying to get into firefights, you know, it makes weapons like something like the AS Val very, very unusable in 99% of the map engagements. Unless you're, obviously close quarters is good, but when you get caught in an area which almost 50% of the map is just this empty space, it's very, you know, you can't really use that weapon unless you're in close quarters because of the nerfs that it's received. And rightfully so, but you really get stuck in these areas where you can't have meaningful firefights. It's basically just whoever gets eyes on someone first wins, and majority of the time it's people with Vanguard weapons and the Vanguard operator skins, which are very difficult to use. So I really hope they do something about this. I really hope they can bring back Verdansk. I know we all complained about Verdansk at one point, but the new map is really, really not good in my opinion. It's just a very bland map. There's nothing that really stands out to me about it. I think it's just missing substance. And I know the Tactical Brit had a interesting post on Twitter the other day saying how everyone's complaining about Caldera, but Verdansk had all these problems. But at the end of the day, yeah, Verdansk wasn't perfect, but it offered for a lot more meaningful gameplay, in my opinion. Especially when it comes to using off-meta type builds or even meta builds. There's just a lot more meaningful and fun engagements. I think the variety in the current map is just very, very lacking. Poor visibility, lack of cover in majority of the areas. And it's, like I said, it's very hard to really get a good feel for the map because you can't play the way you want to play majority of the time, and that is with your loadout. And someone like me who likes to run the Modern Warfare weapons, if you like to run colder weapons, you're at a disadvantage right off the bat because you're not enjoying the weapons that you're stuck with until the 8-minute mark, pretty much. I think, obviously, Verdansk did have its camping areas, like I said, but it allowed you to use different weapons and it's more variety. Here on Caldera, it's just not feasible to use a lot of weapons, and it's just very difficult because you don't even get your loadout a lot of times. So that's one thing. I think another video here I'll cover in the future is I'm very kind of confused why they don't have both maps. And this is, I think, goes into the fact that Warzone is still plugged into the Modern Warfare client. And, you know, if we look at maps or games like Fortnite, there's still multiple maps in rotation typically. And I think they have, what, like 3 maps? Fortnite has a few different maps, I believe. But when Warzone 2 comes out and it's its own client, there's really no reason we shouldn't have Verdansk as a map Caldera as a map and whatever the new DMZ zone Warzone 2 map is going to be. There's no reason, if it's on its own client, that we shouldn't have multiple maps. And I think that's an issue. The reason we're not seeing that is because with the spacing issue plugged in the Modern Warfare client. If Warzone were moved off this and was its own client, then I think we would have both maps. But it's definitely unfortunate that we don't have Verdansk as an option here. It's unfortunate we don't have different limited time modes. When we talk about limited time modes, instead of these weird modes that they come up with, why not have a Modern Warfare only Royale on Verdansk? The Verdansk that Infinity Ward made, where the bunkers were open, which I would argue was the best Verdansk build that they had when you could get into the bunkers. So Verdansk, Prime Verdansk with bunkers open, only Modern Warfare operators and weapons. That would be a really good limited time mode. Do that for a weekend, a week, 2 weeks. Then do a Caldera only mode. Do a Cold War only on Verdansk 84. Mix it up with things like that, or even switch the map up and keep it how it is now with all the different games on the Verdansk map, on Verdansk 84. Switching things up with that, I think those would be better limited time modes than a lot of the weird things they come up with. Obviously, there's some redeeming limited time modes, I would say two, like the buyback modes and the realism mode are my only two that I've really ever bothered playing. But that's my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think. What would you recommend for fixing this? I don't think we're going to see any changes to this map. Obviously, we have, probably about a little over a year now till we get this Warzone 2 with the DMZ map. And hopefully at that point, Warzone is its own client, which we'll get into in further future videos. But if it is its own client, maybe we can see the return of Verdansk. Maybe we'll see Caldera come in again. And I would honestly really love to actually see the Blackout map brought over from Black Ops 4. The Blackout map from Black Ops 4 was a lot of fun. That map had a lot of open space too. However, they did a great job of placing a lot of buildings for cover in that open space, which is something that Caldera does not do, which is interesting. I'm not sure who came up with the map itself, but if you look at Blackout, Treyarch was on weapon tuning changes, Ricky Tick, right away whenever there's overpowered weapons, they would make changes very, very quickly. Map changes and POI changes, adding POIs. Treyarch did a great job with Black Ops 4's Blackout, and I would really like to see better changes and quicker changes like that for Warzone 2 in the future. I think at this point, with the current build of Warzone, it's just kind of maintain and do the bare minimum to get it by because of the limitations with probably keeping it plugged in the Modern Warfare client. But when we get to Warzone 2, I would expect a lot of these things to be fixed right away, and I would also expect more than one map after the first maybe 6 months on the new map. I would expect to see Verdansk come in, even if it's for a limited time mode, see Caldera come in, and we see a rotation on some of these maps. So let me know what you guys think down below. What are your thoughts on Caldera? Are you a fan of this map? Are you not a fan of this map? Let me know why. Personally, like I said, just not a fan. Too open, very hard to see, poor visibility. And again, the weapons, I think just not being able to buy your loadout is a big pain. It really takes away. I know a lot of my community stopped playing, and even when I play, it's just extremely frustrating. I really don't enjoy it at all. I have a great time playing Rebirth when I play, but to be honest, when there's games like Insurgency Sandstorm out there, I can have fun playing that. And it's just a shame to see where Warzone's come from to where it is now, when we used to have so much fun on Verdansk with the Modern Warfare only stuff. I would pay money to go back to Kilo meta at this point on Verdansk, but unfortunately we're long past that, and now we're on to World War II weapons outperforming Modern Warfare weapons. We have weapons like the Bren, which outperforms the Scar H for some reason. I guess we haven't made any technological improvements in the past 70 years in the firearm industry, which is very interesting to see. This is another reason I think with Warzone 2 they need to cut this, bring every COD title's weapons in here and keep it on a modern setting with only Modern Warfare weapons from Modern Warfare games. So that could be from the original trilogy, can be weapons from Modern Warfare 2019, can be modern weapons from other modern Call of Duty games. But to see weapons from a Cold War era, World War II era, or even a future era come in, I think is a big mistake. It really takes away from the immersion, and it just offers a big balancing issue. This is a topic we can go into endlessly, but when we look at weapons like the Bren and the Scar H, you have weapons that have similar calibers. They should all start with similar damage profiles and be tuned accordingly. And it just seems like that's not the case, especially when we look at recoil patterns on a lot of these weapons. It's just insane to me that a Bren from 70 years ago has less recoil and outperforms a Scar H, which is, one of the better assault rifles around today, or battle rifles, I should say. It is a battle rifle. But firing that 7.62 by 51mm, I mean, that's a weapon that should be outperforming Vanguard guns. And to have the Vanguard guns, obviously you need to have them similarly matched, but to have them outperform a lot of the Modern Warfare weapons that they do, to the degree they do, is almost, it's pretty insulting to my intelligence as somebody who's a weapon enthusiast. But let me know what your thoughts are down below on the weapon issues, the loadout issues, or the map issues. Let me know what you guys think. Till next time, this is Buffering Gaming. Out.